I'm not gonna hate on the first one. I'm gonna hate on the second one.
Okay, yeah, same.
Okay. Adrian is in the train. I don't know where. Oh, there she is. Okay.
I'm here. I'm here.
I could hear you, but I couldn't see you. So I was like, she's coming
Well,
from inside the train. Hey. Oh shit. Okay. This is Slashers, your favorite horror podcast about your favorite horror media. It is me, Mikey, along with my lovely co-hosts, Doug and Aid. Boys, say hello to the mutant goons from beyond.
Hey, all you mutant goons from beyond! I've been taking my testosterone. I think I sound pretty manly right now.
Are you attacking me right now, Doug?
No, I'm trying to talk like an airline pilot.
I
They
told
take
you
too
in
much
confidence
testosterone.
that I take testosterone. And something was in my
Well,
throat when I
what's
was
this
doing my
stuff?
introduction. Coffee with testosterone.
Testosterone, liquid testosterone.
oh my God.
He came in the cup. He came in the cup. Oh, here's Aid.
Oh yeah, don't forget I'm here.
Please make sure
hanging
your
out,
microphone's
Aid
plugged
here.
in this time. Thank you.
It is, and that was the thing because that's why I was late because I've been inspired lately to write more. So I was typing away and I lost track of time and I was like, oh shit, I don't have enough holes in my computer or my laptop, so I need to unplug the keyboard and plug in my microphone. So here we are.
I
Anyways,
never
that was
have
a
that problem.
Yeah, I
meaningless
think just
story.
enough holes.
Oh, well, I have this little thing, but like we bought this new stand for the laptop, so it just kind of dangles.
What is that? A
And I'm
taco
like,
or?
it looks like a taco, so it has a bunch more USB ports. So
Oh, that's
technically I
cute.
could have everything plugged in.
So it's like a 3P. It's a taco with 3 slides.
Oh, there's four actually in it because there's one on the end too.
Oh
Ooh,
God.
that's the
Some
bad
people I
one.
know might get excited about that.
Plug it in both sides. Ooh.
Ooh.
Anyway, well, how's everybody doing?
I know, Doug, you
Dude,
first. It's been a while since we've seen you.
yeah, it's been actually a pretty busy New Year's. A lot of stuff here and there. Trash Juice is out on Blu-ray, so I've been like pushing that on social media and stuff before the fucking Tubi one comes out. Yeah, and I'm working 2 jobs, so it's been like a pain in the ass. I come home and it's dark at 4:30, so it's like where the hell does the day go? But I'm glad to be back on this one with you guys because it's been a minute and I miss it.
Mhm. Yeah, Yahira's out of town, so poor Doug's like bathing in purple sludge. What's going on with that?
Oh yeah, so there's a photo. We might post it maybe for Patreon. I don't know, but I took I'm all by myself in the house. Hopefully no serial killer comes and gets me in my feeble state. But I decided to take a bath that I haven't taken a bath in like a year. It's always showers and stuff. But we had a bath bomb. I don't know where we got it from. Luscious Tits, I think it's called. That's what the thing. Luscious Tits or Big Lots, one of the two. And I decided to throw it in there. I don't know if bath bombs expired because this one turned into like purple sludge, like the Ghostbusters 2 slime. So I fell asleep in the tub and I woke up and I was in the fucking Ghostbusters 2 bathtub.
Oh my God. No,
Well,
some of them do change colors, so
Did they turn into like goo?
I've never had that happen before. So you might want to check all your orifices and make sure that nothing slid in.
Well, it felt pretty good to be honest. You remember The Matrix when Keanu Reeves wakes up and he's all in that primordial goo? Like that's how I felt.
The placenta?
The placenta, yeah. Maybe it's placenta flavored, so I gotta check it. Lush. It was Lush. That's what it's called. Lush, not Luscious Tits. Lush.
maybe
So,
that's why you fell asleep because it just reminded you of being back in your mama's stomach.
yeah, and then Mr. P wakes up. He's just staring at me like, "What the fuck happened to you?"
Yeah, we might share that picture. It's a little disturbing, but it comes with an accompanying meme.
The meme
Yeah.
is hilarious. Oh my God, I love the meme.
No, known as bathtub guy. So.
Oh, well, we've missed you, Doug. So, because I
Well, I
feel
missed
like
you too. Yeah, it's been a minute. I was gonna say like when was the last time we all did one like this together? Well, it was the Christmas one, right?
Christmas,
Yeah.
which was not too long ago, right?
The last one
So,
I remember, I was out for 2 days with alcohol poisoning.
oh yeah, oh no, that was the Patreon bonus. Oh yeah, oh that's why. Okay, so Doug is not dead, everyone. We just wanted him on another episode, so you would know.
Oh God, I hope that uncensored one never. Well, maybe Patreon got it uncensored. I don't know, but I'm fucking embarrassed by that. So I apologize to all you people that watched that train wreck go down. And I was under the table. So Micah and Aid, you guys can outdrink me. I was under the table, literally.
Well, of course we can outdrink you. We can outdrink everybody. But that's the thing though. Like I cut that episode up so much, so no one's gonna even notice. So it's fine. Everything's fine. We're all good. Happy New Year. Oh, Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year. But for the right amount of money, if you do want to see this unedited footage of Doug in his natural state, we might be able to work something out.
Are we talking
sliding
about
off his chair?
Are we talking about sliding off the chair or the primordial goo?
He was like
The
slowly,
chair.
like as the time was going on, he's like disappearing like this, and we're like, where's Doug going?
Oh yeah, I was like, I'll let you know a secret. Eating pussy is like the best thing ever. And I fell asleep on the couch watching Sleepaway Camp 3 or something. So.
Micah had to call Yahira. I was like, somebody better call Yahira because she's gonna come home and find Doug dead somewhere on the floor. So, but he's fine. He's fine. Anyway.
Yes. He's fine. He's back. He's fine, to add to that. Oh, I rhymed. I'm a rapper, guys.
Yeah, you could be like the SoundCloud rappers in this Terror Train remake movie.
Whoop, whoop. Speaking of, that brings us what we're covering today. We are covering Terror Train, but not the one that everybody loves, kind of. The one from, actually, both of them say that they're from 2022. I guess. I don't know if maybe they filmed them one right after another. It makes sense to save money. But we're talking about Terror Train Part 1 and Terror Train Part 2. Yeah.
These are the TTTs, the Tubi originals, too. So, see, we made a joke about Tubi originals, and here it is in fruition. It's a real thing now.
Yeah, we jinxed ourselves. Before we get into this, though, I know Aid, we talked about the original on Frightmare's podcast. So if you guys want to hear us talk about the original, listen to Frightmare's podcast. There's an episode on there where we talk about Terror Train. Doug, have you seen the original Terror Train before this?
Oh, I fucking love the original Terror Train. I watched it with my grandma back when I was like 5 years old. So, in fact, that was going to be one of my first tattoos before Toxie was the conductor.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Oh.
Yeah, I love Terror Train.
Because I know based off our last episode where we talked about it, Aid saw it once and then she revisited it for the podcast. That was my first time watching it. I thought I watched it, but I was getting it confused with Prom Night. So I thought it was going to be bad, but I was like really surprised at how good it was. And we talked about like all the pluses about Terror Train. Everybody pretty much loved it in the past episode.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, like, even though I've seen it, like every time I watch it, I still I'm like, who the fuck was the killer? So the killer in the original one, the reveal is really cool. I like that a lot because who the fuck knew? You know what I mean? It's still good. And then there's some Three Stooges slapstick moment at the end where he's getting brained with a shovel and thrown off the train. Just
we loved it. The smack at the end, it was great. But we are not here to talk about the original. We're gonna obviously bring it up from here to there because obviously it's the foundation of what these movies are built off of. But we'll go ahead and get into the first Terror Train. For the sake of the conversation, just so everybody knows, the main character's name is Alana. She's played by Robin something. Hang on, let me bring up something.
Yeah,
that's all
let's
Tubi
bring up the hard-earned notes I took earlier, which I forgot to finish them. I'm sorry, guys, but
that's why I didn't look at them.
Robin Alomar. The only thing I didn't include was the competition, but we can easily pull that up from Google. I'm not worried about it. Because they both happened this year.
Yeah, they happened this year. Well, actually,
yeah, because the first Terror Train, the first one actually released October 21st.
This year, like a couple months ago?
Yeah, a couple months ago. And then they released the part 2 on December 31st because this part 2 takes place on New Year's. The first one takes place on Halloween, which is probably the biggest
difference.
Well, not the biggest difference. There's several big differences, but probably the most notable difference being that it's Halloween. I think it's important to note that because New Year's, like, I like to watch Terror Trainer on New Year's, and so if we're gonna change it up, like, what the fuck? Like, now I don't have a New Year's movie because you remade it and you made it on Halloween.
Warn a bitch next time. What I was hoping that they were going to
Exactly.
do is that because they had two and one took place on Halloween and one took place on New Year's, I was hoping they were going to remake the first half of the movie on Halloween and the second half of the movie on New Year's. I don't know how they would do it, but to me, that sounds like a great idea. Anyways,
Mhm.
neither here nor there. So, Terror Train Part 1. Do they even have? No, it's just Terror Train and Terror Train 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as far as competition goes, it's really hard to say just because we have like so many Halloween movies coming out straight to Tubi in general. But this was the Tubi original, so it was going to be highlighted all over Tubi. I use Tubi a lot. I know you guys do too, because surprisingly, Tubi has a lot of stuff that Shudder already has, and Netflix has just been boring as shit. So I don't even log on to Netflix anymore. And so that's kind of how I got familiar with the Terror Train remake. And then people were watching it and they were like, oh, this is stupid. This sucks, yada, yada, yada. So, Doug,
Yeah.
you're the freshest set of eyes to see Terror Train 1. What did you think about it?
Well, it the first half was like, man, this is like a Lifetime movie written by BuzzFeed. Because here's the thing I can't stand. It's like if you have the budget for a movie, well, that's more on Terror Train 2, because fuck that movie. But Terror Train, this one here, it's like a shot for shot remake almost of the original movie, but instead you get people just doing things like, oh, I'm gonna cancel you, bro. Oh, really? Oh, that's not inclusive. You know what I mean? It's just stuff you hear on fucking hashtag and Twitter and everything. So I'm pretty convinced that it was written by BuzzFeed articles, or like the algorithm for that. But I will tell you, like, I was just kind of like, yeah, it's like a fresh remake of like shot for shot almost. Like there's scenes where
Yeah.
the killer's even breaking the lights and everything. And then the mask in this one the killer wears, it reminds me of the Camp Blood, those awful Camp Blood movies. I could call them awful because I worked on, I think, part 8 doing the effects, and then some other like they're fucking terrible. You know what I mean? It's just a waste. But that's besides the point. Yeah, the thing with this one, I feel like it's trying to go towards like the TikTok audience again, just like the mass populace. But what did get me with this one is I was expecting the magician or the magician's assistant to be the killer, but no, you get a almost Friday the 13th kind of twist, and I loved it.
Yeah.
So I did like the last 15 minutes, to be honest. I did like that. That reminded me of the Slumber Party Massacre remake as well. So kudos to that one.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Summer Party Massacre remake was pretty top tier. I enjoyed the Terror Train remake, but it's not top tier. Um, it's
No, I'm not saying it is top tier. It's top tier trash
Trash.
Tubi.
Trash shade.
Yeah, but you know what? I suck the trash juice. I like trash juice. So
you
yeah,
know,
those like it wasn't bad, honestly.
it's not top tier. It's top tier Tubi. I like that. That just means trash. Um, But real quick, summary of Terror Train 1 is a fraternity gets sorority classmates to help them play a prank on a new pledge, making the pledge go crazy and need to be hospitalized. On Halloween, they rent a train for a private party when, unbeknownst to them, a murderer on board is using their latest victim's Halloween costumes as a disguise. Very similar to the original, the only difference is that this is on Halloween and not New Year's. What I really liked about it is it is pretty shot for shot, but not enough to where you're like, this is the same exact movie. Like there are differences, especially when we get to who the killer is and things like that, which I liked because you can't have the killer be the exact same person because then you're watching the movie knowing the whole time that's who the killer is. And the magician didn't have an assistant in this one. So this was also interesting because I was like, okay, well, they automatically took that out because it can't be the assistant because there's no assistant. But I really liked that it was like, they use the same costumes as the original, but updated versions. Like there was still a lizard. What were the other ones? There was she was a pirate.
Yeah, they were all just still dressed the same. She was the pirate, the girlfriend was a witch, right? So
there was
yeah,
no
that was
Groucho
cute.
mask, unfortunately, so no Guncho.
I'm wondering
No,
if
yeah,
maybe
no
that has to
good
do with
show.
copyright issues though now. I don't know about back then, but I don't know if they can't do it because of copyright now. But but they used, because what, Groucho Marx was like a comedian, right? So they used a clown. Same thing.
Yeah.
It really was a decent slasher. I mentioned in one of the latest episodes that I was really missing a slasher movie. That's when I was like, some movie by some guy that worked on Scream, and Aid was like, Kevin Williamson. I was like, sure, whatever. So
But Mikey, how could you be the only gay one in the group and not know who he is? Why am I more gay than you are? What is that?
It's
What is
because
that?
if I would have read it was Kevin Williamson, I would have known. Because hello, we have Dawson's Creek, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream. But it just said someone that worked on Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer is coming out with a new slasher. I saw the commercial, it looks okay, but I don't think it's going to scratch that slasher itch that I have, because I really want like a slashing by the numbers, mass murder, high school kids or college kids. Like I want that. I don't want a serious, like, oh, me and my homegirl are stuck in a pandemic in the cabin in the woods. No thanks. Been there, done that. So, but what I really liked about this movie is, and Doug mentioned it before the podcast. What did you say before the podcast, Doug? You can make it
I
better.
said, what would I make it better? Like, okay, are we talking about Terror Train 2 or 1?
Well, no, because before you said Terror, I know you were like hating on Terror Train 2. You said you could have made a better movie on video in the early 2000s.
Oh, no, I didn't say I could personally. I was just saying things like what pisses me off. I'm going into a Joe Bob rant right now, his old boomer tactics. But here's the thing. I'm mostly aiming at Terror Train 2, because Terror Train, it's fun background fluff. But Terror Train 2, for example, you have a fucking budget, you have a crew, you have a fucking camera. Your biggest sin is making something not fucking interesting. We're watching Terror Train 2. We're not watching a fucking Lifetime special, and you're going to go in here and say like, oh, the trauma. Fuck that. They go into like the Halloween Ends territory where it's like trauma. Fuck you. The movie's not entertaining. These people can't act. You have a fucking budget and make something entertaining. Micah just sent me the thing for Hell's Highway. That's a movie from 2002 shot on like SVHS camcorder, and that movie's, I have it on a DVD. That movie's like 10 times more fucking entertaining with like $10 budget compared to Terror Train 2. And you had the resources to do it. You had the actors. Why are you not going to make why are you just going to make something that's like, oh, just check up the marks, here you go. No, I don't know. That's just me. It just felt like a factory thing, kind of like Blumhouse is doing it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely feels turned out, because the first remake, and we were talking about this before because I had started it and then we had to stop because we had to jump on the old one for Austin.
Yeah.
But I had started it, I'm like, oh, shot for shot, like the old one, right? And when it first started, but I was like, it's fine. I did have a problem. There are some issues, and the same with Doug. It's one, I feel like they're just checking boxes to make sure that everybody's included, which we talked about that before. There's a way to be inclusive without being forced or feel like you're just checking boxes.
Without constantly bringing it up, like just like referencing, holy shit. That's what I said. It's like a BuzzFeed article. Stop referencing it. Just do
it. Like, what's the problem? Like, why do we need to make sure that it's known? And especially one of the parts that annoyed me was when the president was talking to all of them before they get on the train, and he's like, remember, no touching anybody without consent, and that I go, firstly, like, I get why people feel the need, they have to say that now, but even now nobody would say that, right? Yeah. Like, now it's implied, okay, don't fucking touch me without consent. I mean, in the 80s obviously it was different, but you bring this movie into modern day, and it's almost like you're pandering to one generation and one generation only. And you're pandering to a generation who basically, like, because Gen Z, they're, people want to talk all this shit about millennials, but the people that I think they're referencing is Gen Z, honestly.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm not saying anything bad about them, so to say. I think that they are very vapid, self-absorbed, and their only exposure to the real world is through social media and their phones, and their whole life is about being an influencer. And so you bring that culture into Terror Train and you take away all of the things that make Terror Train great. I think that while I did still love the ending to this one, like the first one I think was pretty good. There's a couple of issues I had with it, but all of the issues I had with the first one were completely magnified in part two and overexposed in part two. And like, why even make a part two? I don't understand why part two had to happen. What was the issue?
They probably had extra budget in like 2 days. Like, hey, we have 2 days. Let's just film something.
I
Well,
don't
yeah,
know,
because
like, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna
No.
say I don't know why they made a part two either, because we'll get to it in a minute, but part two, if the killer was connected to the original, then I would have been like, okay, now there's a reason. But it's not really. I mean, like they are, but not really. I don't know if they were trying to be like a social commentary, because I liked part one a lot. I'm gonna say it. I don't know why so many people hate it. Maybe it's because the whole Terror Train one is great. Terror Train the original is great. The remake by far is not a classic like the original, but it holds its own as a slasher movie. And Doug mentioned shooting something on, video in early 2000s. What I liked about this movie is it felt like the slashers from the early 2000s that I used to rent at Blockbuster. It was, kind of dumb, but I really liked the character of Alana. I liked Mitchie. Like the acting was questionable sometimes. I love that we have two different perspectives with Alana and the worker on the train. I forgot her name. But we have two women, not just a typical story from one woman. But part two is definitely going the route of what Texas Chainsaw did, what I feel successfully, but people hate about it, which was to highlight the Gen Z attitudes. Terror Train 2 tried to do it, but it was like a little too much. Like
It was cringy.
it's almost like Fantasyland. Like maybe you'd find a couple of people like that if you took a train in California, but if you're just living in an everyday city, there's not going to be a ton of people like that. But to your point, Gen Z does have its issues, but the issues that they don't have is homophobia and racism. And so it's like, and that stupid movie with Rebel Wilson tackles it, where like this new generation is the generation of everybody's a winner, everybody gets a participation trophy, like
Yeah.
and so like they can be self-absorbed, they could be vapid, they could be all these things, but they're very inclusive and they're very against any type of discrimination. So I think that's why these movies are so heavy when they're trying to highlight that generation.
Yeah, but the issue I have with that is that while they are inclusive and they are not, or we want to say they're inclusive for the sole purpose of highlighting that through social media and turning that into
Oh yeah,
something
it's the white
like
knight
the
syndrome.
entire, yeah,
Mhm.
and the entire film does highlight that. What Texas Chainsaw I think is successful with is that it it highlights those things more in a more subtle way to where we still hate these kids, but at the end of the day, we realize like to be, they
Yeah,
are trying to be good people.
yeah,
Where
they all
Terror
have a
Train
moment
2
where their
is not
morality comes out.
exactly where Terror Train 2 is not successful is that it not only does it force everything down your throat, but it also kind of makes it feel like everything good about Gen Z is still bad. And instead of highlighting it in the way that Texas Chainsaw does, it just kind of it, it it doesn't do it's not effective. It's not effective in the message that it's trying to bring. And not only that, but it also tries to bring in lots of issues with mental health and all of that, which most horror does. Most horror movies do touch on mental health and almost, I mean, I would say almost every horror movie does, because usually the slashers and the killers have some sort of mental trauma or are like we just talked about with Housebound and Eugene, for example. However, it is so like the whole movie like is completely like what's the word I'm looking for, insensitive to that, where they're trying to be so like, oh, you can't be sexist, you can't be racist, you can't be this, you can't be that, but they're so incredibly insensitive to the fact that these people, there's trauma here. We're gonna go to throw this bitch back on the train and hope for the best, and
And
then
all the
her,
returning cast and crew are back. The magician, the Prez, oh my
I
god.
know. Well,
and then the
obviously,
roommate's a fucking nightmare.
oh
Like, what
God,
the hell is
I know. And so obviously we're gonna have a lot to say about Terror Train 2, because we like to talk shit and not praise. So let's wrap up Terror Train 1. I enjoyed it. I think if you like horror, you should watch it. If you like slashers, definitely watch it. Don't listen to people. It's not as bad as people say. It's there. It's a free movie on Tubi, and they made it, and it looks decent. So what do you got?
Yeah, and Mikey
Final thoughts on
said
one?
that Yeah, well, that's exactly what I said. Like, this reminded me of the movies Mike was talking, like movies like Final Stab, or like those like
Mhm.
early 2000s movies that
The
came out like
Pool.
straight to Blockbuster. Yeah, stuff like that where everyone had bad haircuts and they had long sleeves on and a short sleeve on top. So those types of movies, that's what it reminded me of.
I mean, and yeah, like Terror Train, when I thought was great. Like, and I don't know why everybody was so mad about it. I'm like, for what it was pretty good. And
Yeah.
I do like Alana. Like, I don't think the girl who plays Alana, and I love that they kept all the names and everything, so everybody.
Mhm.
And everybody was pretty similar to their characters from the old one, I would say.
Yeah.
With the exception of Ken. Well, Kenny was still weird, so yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it was fine. But oh, and then the Tim Rozon who plays the magician, he is so cringe. Like, what is
Yeah.
that? But the old magician was weird too. So
Well, the old magician was that was David Copperfield.
Copperfield.
Yeah,
David Copperfield. But he would, the way he would look at Jamie Lee Curtis in the old one, like, I felt uncomfortable. Like, why is he looking at her like that? Like oh, like he wants to eat her and not eat her out, but like just eat her.
I think that was like the big red herring.
Yeah,
so, because the whole thing is like they thought.
Yeah, they were.
Go ahead.
With this one, I feel like they were extra trying hard to make it seem like it was Mutt from Schitt's Creek, which, by the way, without a beard. But hey, I have the same issue, so I'm not going to say anything.
Well, what I can say is, if you guys ever reacted to like a dead body in a bed, like in Terror Train, the original and the remake, would you just spin around and go and just spin around and with the drape? What the fuck was that? I don't know. They all spin around. I'm like, what the fuck is the spinning?
Yeah, it was a choice. But yeah, so for the sake of getting into the Terror Train 2, we're going to mention the killer. So if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, starting now. Because we managed to get to the first one without spoilers. The killer in the first remake, that sounds so weird to say. Terror Train, the first one, not the original. God damn it. So Terror Train, the remake, the killer is the kid who they pulled a prank on. It's his mom. So like Doug said, the Jason Friday the 13th switcheroony, she has been the she's not the conductor, but she's like, actually, do they even have a conductor on this train?
Yeah,
she was the conductor. Yeah,
she plays Carney. She plays the female version of the male role from the original.
Oh,
I just called her Carne.
I was going to say the same thing because it's spelled like carne.
It was Carne.
Yeah,
Carne. I think you call her Carney, and I thought it was just Carn. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm reading. Anyways,
but they did have the they basically a Karen, or Spanish Karen, Carne.
Yeah,
pendeja. So, but you did get the killer. Well, the son in this one, he makes an appearance at the end, and they gave him that perfect school shooter bowl haircut.
Yeah,
like he has that bad cut line, and he's like, "I just wanted a kiss. Can I please get a kiss?" Just typical incel.
He was disgusting, and I was like, you know what? Thank God they shot him, even though it wasn't him. He had to go. Bye, honey.
Yeah, I mean, we're real sensitive when it comes to mental health issues, but I'm just kidding. Okay, but they should have shot it.
I'm just kidding. I don't think there was anything mentally wrong with him. I just think he was a creep, and his mommy was like, yeah, he was a mama's boy.
He was a future Jason.
Yeah, well, he saved, him getting shot. It saved a future spot for trash talking Discord servers. So
we're gonna get into Terror Train 2 now, which is the sequel to the remake. Quick summary is, picks up a couple years after Terror Train 1, this time on New Year's Eve. A true crime app is hosting a party on the original Terror Train to commemorate the terrible evening. The passengers include Mary, Pet, the Prez, and the Magician, as they all survived the original. Our main girl, Lana, is coerced into joining as an exercise in healing from her psycho roommate and terrible therapist. And once again, unbeknownst to them, a new killer is hiding on board using their latest victims' costumes as disguises. As you can tell, I wrote these myself. But yeah, so what is kind of sad about this one is that I really liked Alana in this one. In the first one, I was like, she's fine, but sometimes she was a little annoying, but I really liked her in this one. And I was like, but why couldn't they have just written it a little better? And also I think so we have returning characters from the original, and I use quotations because they were literally just passengers on the train. Nothing happened to them, and they're like milking it to be like, I was a survivor. And it's brought up later on that basically Alana and the lady who works on the train were the only ones that were actually there to be attacked. Oh, and the magician. But the girls are trying to like gain popularity from it. The whole TikTok thing where they want views and likes because they're, and they always say that they're jealous because Alana's the final girl, but she's not doing anything to capitalize on that. So it's very TikTok generation when you're talking about what they want. I wonder if boomers were to watch this, what they would be like. What the fuck are they talking about?
What the hell is she doing about? What's TikTok? Like for example, the one girl, she's like, "You're the most famous final girl ever." I'm like,
yeah.
Like,
okay, Jamie Lee Curtis.
And that's my thing too, is that, I know we're a little bit older than obviously this generation, but it's so presumptuous and that's the thing. I like the fact that this is highlighted, right? That they're basically just kind of documenting this whole thing, right? Live. They're going live. So when everything's happening, like you see them talking and then you see all the comments, and basically they're all doing it for the comments. And like, okay, I'm glad that we're highlighting this because this is what these kids are doing now. This is literally all they do. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like they could have used it so much better. Like they kind of did with Mary's murder, I would say, because he turns the camera on and then she's murdered on the thing. Like that was fun.
And then the comments are like fake. Like that
was good, but I think it was just overkill with everything else. Like you could have done it here and there because there's other movies and this is not a horror film, but another movie who does that effectively that I thought was really good, who kind of like, you have to bridge the gaps between the people who like the original and the people now, right? So like bring us all together and all of us come together in one thing, like sort of like the Texas Chainsaw did. But for lack of a better example, the he's all that, like there's She's All That from 98 and then He's All That just came out a couple of years ago. And it does such a good job of bridging the gap between those of us who like the original, which obviously is me because I'm old, and then bringing in a new generation and to kind of like coming into that, right? Like they did it really effectively. This film just didn't. And the sad thing is it's the same writers, the same director. Like basically they just kind of carried on the movie a little bit longer if you think about it. Like why is there such a huge shift in both of them? I don't get it. And I couldn't find anything of it. I don't know what you guys thought of that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I just remember like I was watching this movie and it's just like I paused it because I'm like, we're 25 minutes in. There's nothing going on besides, oh, I'm so traumatized. My therapist, like it sounds like those apps. Well, Mikey doesn't have the ads on YouTube, but on YouTube it's like, come to BetterHelp. I'm going to get a therapist for you. BetterHelp.
I know.
Fuck.
When she said something
they'll
like,
charge you $100 an hour, by the way. Don't go there.
No.
Sorry.
That's what it sounded like. This movie was like an ad for BetterHelp.
When she talks about how her therapist would want her to go on the train, I was like, no, they wouldn't. And if they do, you probably get a different therapist. So
it sounds like that therapist from Smile. So.
And that's the thing. Yeah, I know. It's not sad. And that's the thing is that the roommate was and I know she's there to be a red herring, but even without being a red herring, what an awful human being this person is.
Oh, but a
like,
great
just
actress.
The way she sits down, she's like, I'm gonna feed you. Don't make me feed you. Like she clearly, I mean, there's just an obsession there.
That was a roommate? I thought that was like her lover.
No,
that was her roommate.
Oh.
Her roommate was in love with her, but her roommate was just like obsessed with helping her. And that's, I think, a kind of depiction of this generation, because they are so like gung-ho about helping, right? But they're not helping for the reasons that they should be helping.
They're helping because they think that they're doing the white knight thing. They're like, I'm gonna look at me. I helped my friend. Look, selfie. I helped my friend. She's going to therapy.
Yeah, she's like, I made this website for the victims, but what did she call it? She called it some bullshit. I don't know. There's just a lot of problems with this one. And like, you can't have a film that tackles these issues in such an insensitive manner. I know it's supposed to be like trash, but not even like.
No, it's not supposed to be trash. That's the thing. These are like.
it takes itself too seriously in order for it to be trash, right?
It's
am I
like if a
reaching,
Lifetime
or-
movie was trying to be trash, it doesn't work out. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can. Yeah, I don't know.
I
But
haven't watched Lifetime in so long. I don't even know.
My
it's
thing-
trash anyway.
My thing was, so Pet was annoying since the beginning, since the original one. So she's still annoying. And we have Mary, who barely said anything in the original. And then I guess they're trying to give Mary a story arc and make her likable. And I was like, no. I just didn't like her in the original either. You're not going to try to make me like her. You're not going to make me try to care if she gets killed. So then, of course, they die, or she dies. But was I the only one thinking? Because I was like, okay, my dream of like, let's remake the second half of the original Terror Train and make it Terror Train 2 now that's on New Year's Eve. When Xander comes out, I was like, is this going to be the killer who is posing as a non-binary character? Because in the original one, the killer disguises himself as an assistant who is a woman. And so no one catches on because they think the assistant's a woman, but it ends up being the guy that they pranked in the beginning. So I thought this was going to have a similar type theme where my light's going crazy, where we have like a gender non-binary person who looks more on the feminine side, and then it turns out this is going to be the killer. So I don't know if they did that on purpose to be kind of like a modern red herring of like where it could have gone. So I was really interested to see, and I was like, you can't fool me. I know he's the killer, or she's the killer. They were the killer.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But again,
so-
I feel like that character was put in there to check a box at the end of the day. There was no reason for that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like you're saying.
I don't know. Well, because it's funny because the original Terror Train had heavy homosexual overtones. We've discussed that. The remake dropped it. So I was like, okay, that's fine. The sequel brought them back, but this time with
the
Alana and her
girls.
roommate.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Alana and the worker. What is her name? Not Stacy.
Sadie.
Sadie. I was like, so we already have it with
But there
the
was like
roommate.
a love triangle because the roommate wants her, and then the other two, yeah.
And we didn't know if they actually liked each other. It was just very heavy on the romance vibes. So I was like, okay, well, they brought it back in a different way. Ultimately, I didn't think it was terrible or trash. It just wasn't as good as the original one. I really liked Alana. My thing is, there was no memorable death scenes, and there wasn't really even a climax. There was like, I mean, they're on a train, so you're limited to any kind of chase scene, but we have what they're missing is the original when Doc was in the room and there was suspense because he didn't know where the killer was, but he's like, the killer's in the room with me somewhere. It didn't have any of that. It just had, oh, you think she's the killer? Nope, we're killing her. You think he's the killer? Nope, we killed him. Just like stab here, stab there. And there's like CGI blood in this one. I don't think there was CGI blood in the first remake, which threw me off.
There's CGI blood wounds too. Like you can even see like there's some spots where you see the knife like clip out. So you can see it's like a JPEG. Like I'm like, are you seriously? Like how easy is it to do a fucking stab? You just get a fake knife, cut it. Jesus, like I don't know. It's laziness to me. That's why I felt like this movie was just lazy.
It is. It's very lazy. It's very lazy. And like, and I don't want to like sit and judge these people because I want Tubi to be able to come up with good original films, right?
Yeah.
Which the first one was. The second one, again, I do like Alana a lot. My issue was like they just kept drilling into, oh, I'm the survivor. Oh, I know what that looks like. I know what like they just wouldn't shut the fuck up. Okay, if you're gonna put the bitch back on the fucking train, let's get that over with at the beginning. We'll talk about it, and then she doesn't have to keep. It's a lot of exposition in this movie, right? Every 5 minutes, she's got to talk about how she was terrorized. Every fucking 2 minutes. Like, we know what happened. We literally just watched this fucking movie in the first one. We know what happened. She cry about it at the beginning. Let's move on. Okay. You can't just put the bitch back on the train and then keep giving us exposition about what happened in the first movie when we're supposed to be concentrating about what's happening now. And and not only that, but like I did like the twist that I was so happy when that fucking roommate died. I was like, you know what? Even if it isn't a killer, fuck her. I'm so sick of her ass. Bye.
Well, the one thing I can say that I liked about this movie is that you get the clout from the the influencer one that's like, I stopped him, I saved everybody on this train, I'm the killer, I killed the killer. So that I was glad that we got a bitchy character like that. Like just like I did it, I saved all of you. Look at my followers, they love me. Because I feel like that's very Kim Kardashian like.
A disappointing thing was that we didn't get to see her get killed by the killer. Because I was waiting. I was like, oh, she's gonna get it bad. Spoiler alert.
Terror Train 3.
Terror Tunes. Spoiler alert, she was the killer. So while she does get killed, it's not as satisfying as seeing her lies come to get her.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I thought that was great. That was actually my favorite part of the movie where they're going after each other and they're both screaming. And she's like, ah! Like I loved that part. Like I was really like finally I sat up because while I was watching the movie, I hate to say it, I'm doing the notes and I'm like, this movie's horrible. This movie's so bad. Like I'm just so embarrassed that I'm watching it. I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad. But that part was really good. And then she kills her so fast. Like she grabs the knife, she just takes it from her and boop, and it's over. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. Yeah. Like the roommate got it better than she did. So
I know with her intestines and everything.
The intestines coming out, like that was a lot of fun. And that's the thing, they do use CGI blood in Terror Train in the first part. But they don't use it to where it's really noticeable. I mean, I noticed it, but I don't think like if you were looking at it quickly, it would be that big of a deal. Like this one, I don't know what the fuck they were. And that's the thing. Like, if they were filming them back to back, wouldn't they have the same? I don't know. I don't know. And I couldn't find anything about it.
I see they probably had like a few extra days. They're like, hey, we have like a few little bit of budget left in a few days. Let's just film a sequel with more exposition. Because literally, it's like 30 minutes until something happens.
Yeah, you know what it seems like? It seems like they made they made the first remake, and they were like, okay, we're gonna make a second because this one's gonna do good. It's not that bad. And then they were in the middle of making the second one when the first one came out and just saw everybody shitting on it. And then they were like, fuck it, just get it over with. Let's finish this one.
Well, because that's the thing is that Carney was still alive in the first one. And then she never comes back in the second one. So like, what the fuck was the point of that? What was the point of like her eyes popping open? And then at the beginning of the movie saying that she's disappeared.
Yeah, it's a fake out, I guess, that they didn't want to, unless they're coming out with a third one. Hold on tight, slasher goons, because we're about to board the train again. And my thing is, I know it's unbelievable. Oh yeah, the bus. Hey,
because they were alluding to the bus in the at the end of the second one.
But be honest with me, if you had a traumatic, like some killer on a train, would you think you'd really get the survivor back, the magician, the same workers on the train? Like, would you really get that fucking like, they're like, oh yeah, and then the prez is like, we are gonna make a better. I hated that fucking president. We are gonna make a better community. No one talks like that. We are gonna get a better community. And I'm starting to save this whole thing. We are survivors. Let's everyone go on here. It's fucking, I don't know. It's like a hashtag Twitter's argument with that guy. I don't know. It was just so cringy to me. Like just the dialogue of that. I'm like.
And they tried to say, I thought it was from Halloween, and then they're getting back on the fucking train at New Year's, but apparently it's a year later, right?
I thought it was 3. No,
statistically,
it was longer than a couple months.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, but still, I don't think, because that's where I think what would have been more effective had they scrapped all of those people and just brought in a new cast and they all get back on the train knowing that this happened a year ago, but they're like, fuck it, because the tickets are cheap. Like there could have been a better story had they just got rid of all of the original people, because really, do we need them back? Like I do like Alana. I'm not saying I don't like her because I really like her. I think she's really pretty.
Oh, her hair was amazing in the second one.
Oh yeah, and her outfit was great too. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Alana's got to go. Like we could have probably brought in a scene where, something happens and maybe maybe we could have brought her back, or maybe she could have went crazy.
She fell off the train.
They find her like, shoveling coal on the train, and they're like, oh, she looks familiar, but she's like the bitch who survived in the first one. I don't know. There could have been a better way to incorporate the characters who brought it back. Like bringing them back like this was just, I don't know. Like it's sad because the first one is pretty good, and like, why are you gonna fuck with me with the second one? Like, why?
Yeah.
Well, and then you make Mutt look like shit. Like what? What
Yeah.
is
Well,
that?
he's going for that 2002 look, like that really bad haircut.
He looks like Bill from True Blood. That's what I thought it was when I first saw the poster.
Looks like he's
But-
holding in a fart in that Terror Train 2 one, the one in AIDS thing. Look at that. He's like,
that's the first one. You can tell because of Alana's hair. I like that it incorporated like real themes, like how they're all there because essentially money and there's no jobs right now. Like that's a legit reason that's happening right now. Like, I mean, most of us don't have to worry about getting, murdered on our train because we're going back to our job. But I like that they covered that. It was, they were desperate. But essentially, Pet's the killer. Great. Very Scream 4, Jill being the killer because she wants to be like Sydney. That's all it reminded me of. And so I guess I was kind of like, oh, I guess.
Yeah, and I didn't like that Scream 4 bullshit either. So yeah.
well, I picked up who the killer was in this one, like within the first few, like as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, she's gonna be the killer. Just watch, and it was. So
As soon as Xander died, I knew it was her.
yeah. Well, they used like generic masks in this too. Like how many like dollar store slasher movies I've seen where they wear that white kind of mask. I think they even were in like Hellraiser, Hellworld or something. It's like that's not scary. It's just stupid and generic. Yeah. So I don't know, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, they I don't know, and I just feel like they were again. This one really tried to tick the boxes. Like when you make something inclusive, it should just be natural, right? Like we should, like when you're watching something, like you shouldn't be thinking about it. Like it shouldn't be like whatever, because when you have to put it in, when you have to put that in people's faces, I feel like it's almost like you're kind of doing a disservice to it, right? Because you're not making it natural. Like we should all be accepting of these things, and if we're all going to be accepting, it needs to feel accepting. It doesn't need to feel like, oh, we got a trans person. Oh, we have non-binary. Oh, we have this. Oh, we have that. Oh, we got a black girl. Oh, we have, like, come on, like, stop pandering to us.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like show us, don't tell it. Don't constantly keep bringing it up in dialogue. Just have it. You know what I mean? Like that's the easiest thing. People are not stupid. They'll pick up on that. You could have shown so many. We could have cut 25 minutes from this movie about the whole thing. Oh, I have trauma. I have trauma. Just show a scene and like have her like a quick flashback or something, like just something that triggers her. Like she could act her way to saying like, oh, I have trauma, but you can act it. Don't keep fucking saying it. Holy shit. Like that was the problem with this Terror Train 2 shit.
Yeah, I feel like they took a lot of things that we don't like about the most recent entries of recent franchises like Scream and Halloween and everything. They put it all in Terror Train.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, all this stuff, like the new Scream, Halloween Ends, this one, I think at the end of the day, there's like some not to put my tinfoil hat on, but at the end of the day, I think it's all sponsored by BetterHelp.
Oh, I mean, there you go. Halloween by BetterHelp.
It could be, but there's a lot of Republican ads here on Tubi sometimes. So I always wonder, like,
well, you're in the land of Florida. That's probably
I was gonna say that's probably because of Dan, because mine always shows like gay shit. Mine shows gay stuff, so I think it picks up on whoever's watching.
Well, I'm afraid of mine. Mine was showing Metamucil.
I did get the Metamucil one yesterday, and I was thinking, I need to get some Metamucil.
Yeah, Metamucil and those thick clay people that get down to what is it? Fresh and easy. They're like get low.
Oh my god!
I have no idea.
I can't do it. Fresh and easy. I love that. That should be the title of your new movie, Doug.
So Douglas, 15-second closing thoughts of the remake entries for Terror Train.
Okay, well, Terror Train, the remake, it's a fun time. Watch it if you have time to kill or just want a background movie on it. It's fun. Like I said, the last 15 minutes echoes Friday the 13th or any killer granny movie, which I like. Terror Train 2 is Hugo is just basa, mierda, hijo de culo. It was a waste of my fucking time. And like I said, what kills is the fucking dialogue. Trauma. Shut up. Go get better help.
I'm going to go ahead and co-sign on that, even though I think I like Terror Train 2 a little more than you guys. Not more than the first one, but just a little bit more because I didn't hate it, but it wasn't anything mind-blowing. Adrian, how did you feel?
Yeah. Same thing. There's the first one's fine. If you want a remake, the first one's fine. I think they actually did well, and I honestly think it was better that they changed the killer because it's a little bit more fresh. Had they kept the other thing going on, then we would already know. So that makes sense. Part 2 could suck my dick because I hated it. Like, it was bad. I mean, it was bad. I did like the bitchy girl, and I was glad that she was the killer, and I loved that she pulled the other bitches' intestines out. Like, those were the best parts of the movie for me. But anyway.
Yeah, and the reason Territory 2 is bad is because it's fucking boring, and they had the budget. There's no excuse. It's unnecessary. If you had the budget, make it fucking fun. Do something with it. Don't. Well, rant over.
To be called Doug Waugh for any more Tubi originals to be
Yes, for your future
be created.
productions. Yes.
Future productions, and the rest of us will star in it, and then you'd have to waste your budget, Doug.
Per the use.
Exactly. We'll make it entertaining.
Yes.
The thing. Just
Mikey will get nude on camera.
I do.
Yeah, do a nude scene finally.
I've been telling a bunch of directors who post that they're casting, and I'm like, oh, just so you know, I do full frontal. And I was telling Jenna the other day, I was like, one of these days, someone's gonna take me up on it, and I'm gonna have to write that check.
We're all gonna see it.
Eventually.
We'll do a watch party for that one. So.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I know what it'll be. It's like, oh, it's a little cold. They got to turn the AC. Hold on. Hey, it's not working. It's too cold in here.
I'll make sure there's a budget in the CGI to make it look nice and pretty. But anyways, that brings this train to a stop at our final destination. So if you would like to support us, we always invite you to our Patreon to view special episodes or even request a movie that we cover for you at patreon.com/slasherspod, right? Or right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Or I can never remember if it's slasherspod first or last. But anyways, that's Redbubble. If you want a t-shirt, if you want coffee mugs, dental dams, fanny packs with our logos on it, you can find us at slasherspod.redbubble.com. Follow us on Instagram at Mutant Goons from Beyond or slasherspod. You can follow Adrian at Pathologically Age. You can follow Doug at Doug Bizarro. You can follow me at Horror and a Half Shell, or follow one of us and then just look at our story the next day, and you'll be able to go get our accounts from our stories, so we always tag each other in. You can also find us on Facebook. Our group is called Mutant Goons from Beyond. And that's it. If you like the episode, feel free to write and give us a 5-star review on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, things like that. It really helps us out. If you didn't enjoy the show, then just fuck off and don't listen again. Now, without anything else to say, on behalf of Doug, Aid, and myself, have a good trip, goodbye, and good die.
Bye.
Bye.